With Zach Watts today, just qualified for his first CrossFit Games. Man, thanks for joining me, dude.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Yeah, man. This was kind of, we were talking off air really quick. I feel like I kind of know your crew a little bit, even back when you were with Elle. And so I've heard so many good things about you. And I feel like I've met all the people or a lot of the characters around you, but I've never met you. So it's finally nice to put a name and a face together, man.
Right. It's nice to meet you too.
For sure. So, look, man, if anyone's new to the sport or new to watching this, you just qualified for the CrossFit Games in really an epic fashion. And what I think was probably the best men's field. Some people are going to get mad that I said that, the best men's field at the MAC this year. Dude, just like, what was that like? I mean, you had some of the biggest names in CrossFit there at the MidAtlantic CrossFit Challenge, and dude, you rose to the challenge. You rose to the occasion. What was that like?
Thank you. Well, first off, I really appreciate it. Looking at all the semifinals, I was impressed with all of the fields. I don't think there is one semifinal out there that's just easier than any of the others.
Sure.
But definitely looking at it, when I first got my invite to the MAC, I was pretty nervous. Like you said, there was a ton of great people there. It did make me nervous, but I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I knew that I was semi-fit and had a chance at some of the events that they rolled out, but I mean, I didn't expect to even get close to qualifying. Honestly, the weekend just kind of was going that way, and luckily I was able to hold on throughout all events.
Semi-fit at the semifinal. That's got to get a ring to it. I think that could be a shirt. No, you're exactly right. I mean, you look at the list, Scott Panchik, Justin Medeiros, Travis Mayer, Angelo DeChico, Ben Smith, Samuel Quant, Hal Fisher. I mean, for the most part, Luke Parker. I mean, these are big names, and obviously you've been to regionals before. And so going in, I mean, obviously the workouts were released ahead of times, and I've heard you in other podcasts talking about managing expectations from kind of regionals in the past. What do you feel like went different this time for you?
I think first of all, that's a great question. I think, especially when I went to regionals, I didn't really do that well. So I went in 2017 and 2018, and I finished 32nd in both years. And the first event both years didn't go well, and I felt like I was disappointed, and it just kind of led me into a downward spiral throughout the weekend with a bad attitude. I was happy to be there and stuff, but I was never competing. And so I was just with the goal of doing the best I could in every single event. So event one obviously went great. There was a max snatch going into it. I was very excited about that event. That's an event that I know that I can win. Whoever's there, I feel like I can compete with them, except Anthony Davis, because that was obviously crazy.
Incredible, right?
340, I can barely deadlift that some days. But I went into that event very confident, but it was what it was, and then I had to move on and get ready for the next event. So whether it was a winning event or if it was event 4 where I got 26th in that event. Sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay.
26th in the 4th event there. It was, my coach did a great job of saying hey, we're going to take 5-10 minutes to talk about the event, get out whatever you want to get out, and then we're going to move on because we have the next workout. And then obviously going into Sunday, I needed 2 great finishes with coming after that final event of day 2 not doing so hot. So I definitely had to bring it on day 3 to finish and qualify and finish in that 5th spot.
So you just glazed over the fact that you got a first place finish, snatching 310, but that's okay. I mean, my gosh. I mean, because, looking at the leaderboard, there was 3 other people that snatched 300, which is really incredible, by the way. I mean,
I think it was 6. I think there was 6 300s. Yeah, I think there was 6 300s. I know that Mark Hutchinson hit 300 in the first heat, and I was standing in the corral, and I heard that, and I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do some big jumps to get there. But so he hit it, and then in that final heat, I mean, there was 6 subsequent 300 snatches or 5, I guess, 300s in a row between, Travis Williams, Jason Hopper, Scott Panchik,
Yeah.
Travis Mayer. I'm forgetting one, but definitely there was a lot of strong people there. And looking at that event, like a couple years ago, 275 would have been an impressive snatch, and then 275 I think was like 15th or 16th in that. And so that's just crazy, the advancement of the sport.
It is, man. 275 was 20th at the Granite Games this year.
Oh my gosh. That
Just
is crazy.
puts in perspective how strong people are. I mean, and 275 isn't like a wimpy snatch either. I mean, that's not anything to scoff at, but you got 20th out of a field of 30.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's a huge goal for a lot of people, and I remember my first 275 snatch like it was yesterday. So that was a huge goal for me for a long time, and to hear that that's now 20th place at the Granite Games, that's crazy.
It's a hard one to swallow, man, for like us regular folk. But so, looking at the weekend, because I was looking at the the leaderboard prior to, and look, I get as an athlete, like part of it's like, hey, I talked about it, I went through it, okay, it is what it is, I can't change it. But I mean, you had a lot of really good finishes. You had a first place, you had a fourth place, you had a sixth. We talked about the 26th, the 12th, and the 4th. I'm just curious, what was the outlier? Obviously Inception was the event with some true form running, heavy wall balls, and ring muscle ups. Kind of when you dissected that with your coach, what did that conversation look like?
For the whole weekend, or just that one bad event?
Well, just really that one event, because everything else was solid. I mean, you had some incredible finishes.
Yeah, well, thank you. So that event, like I'm notorious for not being good at running. So when we did 333 at regionals, I think I got 39th out of 40 people. And it was just, I'm not really prone to going out for a run apparently. But with the time that I have right now, like working full time and stuff, like I was focusing on getting in the gym and practicing just like the skills of CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so I clearly wasn't putting enough time to running. But just to let everyone know that has fully changed. I went out and got a brand new pair of running shoes yesterday, so I'll be hitting the pavement. I'll be hitting the pavement a lot more leading up to the games.
Yeah, I mean, running is the most tested event at the games, so it's got to be something that you're looking at going, oh, geez.
Right.
Okay, so that event happens. And that was at the end. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was at the end of day 2. Correct. That
correct.
26th.
Okay. And normally ring muscle ups I would consider a strength for me. I like wall balls and especially heavy wall balls. So those two movements are normally good for me. But with the combination of running on top of a true form runner, which I normally train on an air runner, just a little bit different, I guess.
Okay.
But the runner just rocked my world. Like, made it tough, and there was no way to recover. And I'm honestly super impressed with all the other athletes to move through it as effortlessly as they did. Like, it was crazy to watch.
What was the biggest, talking about, being impressed and how they moved through it, what was the biggest standout point or the biggest point of emphasis for you, the biggest takeaway, I guess you could say, of the weekend?
This is the first time that I actually got to watch Tia in an event, and just watching her move through it in comparison to the other female athletes and even male athletes. She, I think, could do some of the male weights and male workouts and probably beat the majority of the field. 'Cause she just moves so effortlessly, and she just everything is with a purpose. And there was one event where she jokingly told my friend Angelo that she was just oh, well, no one's gonna catch me, so I just kind of went a little slower. I'm that would be great to feel in the middle of an event, oh, I feel so good that I can keep moving. But she's extremely impressive, and obviously the guys are great too. Watching Jason Hopper, who is a rookie this year, just destroy every single event and just be so confident in the back and on the floor was extremely impressive.
Have you ever competed or heard of him prior to this semifinal?
No, I had not. But come to find out, we were supposed to do the Atlas Games together. So that was an event in the first event of the COVID cancellations. So
Yes,
we were in Montreal, Canada for the event. That Thursday when the world shut down, the rig was half up on the floor, and they announced that they were going to cancel the event. So I would have met him there, but obviously that didn't end up happening.
Wow. Yeah, I think he impressed a lot of people. Yeah, that was a cool place to be. So, okay, so you have the 26th place finish at the end of that second day. What was your internal dialogue like going into the final day, knowing, hey, I've got to get at least some top 5 finishes to be, I mean, let's be honest, to qualify, or I'm not going to qualify. Like,
Yeah.
was that dialogue there? Just kind of fill me in, take me into that moment. What was that like?
So going back to that second day, so I finished the event and I didn't want to look at the leaderboard. I think I was tied for second at that point going into that workout. And afterward, I definitely knew that I was going to fall down the leaderboard, and I had no idea how far that would be. So I was very conscious to not look at my phone, not look at the leaderboard, and I even told my friends and family to not tell me what it was. And so me and my wife were in our hotel room, and I was just kind of like stretching out and recovering a little bit, and I just was like, "All right, Bailey, what is it?" And she immediately knew what it was. Like, she had looked but just didn't tell me. So she said I was in 5th. And so that was relieving, to say the least, that I was still in that qualifying spot. But then just kind of took that night to recover and relax a little bit. And I actually was able to sleep for the first time that weekend that night. I think I was just so exhausted from that workout.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that was great to be able to sleep a little bit. And then waking up in that 5th place, in that qualifying spot, I mean, we were driving. One of me and my wife's favorite jam songs is The Greatest Showman, just like The Greatest Showman song. And it's an awesome song, and we literally jammed to it the whole way to the venue. And there's a spot in the song where it's saying, like, everything you ever want, everything you ever need is sitting right in front of you. And it, like, brought tears to my eyes, and I was just like, this is it. Like, I've dreamed of this moment, and there's no way that I'm going to let this pass. Like, this is the closest I've ever been. And we just, like, had an awesome moment in the car together, and that set the tone for the day. The 5th event, like, I mean, I went as fast as I could go. I think that was 12th. But I still was in 5th, and then going into the last event, listened to that song one more time. I was, like, tearing up in the corral, just waiting, just, like, thinking about, like, this is it. This is what I need to do. And I just focused on who I needed to beat and was able to do it and hold on.
What was that moment like, man? I mean, you know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You get to 5th. You hear your name get called. What was that like?
I'm honestly getting cold chills just thinking about it right now. But so I was finishing that last round of the workout, and I knew I had to be in front of Angelo DiCicco, and I had to be in front of Tyler Eggeman. They were like 6th and 7th. And as like the rounds were advancing, I could tell that I was in the lead. And so when I finished in front of both of them, I had literally had no idea where I was in comparison to any other athletes other than those two. But knowing I beat them, I just was like so relieved, and like I like walked across the finish line with my arms out to my side, because I was just thinking, like, this is it. Like, this is the moment that I've been waiting for. Like, I think I did it, but like I'm not going to even remotely think and like confirm it until they actually say my name. So as soon as they said it, like, it brought tears to my eyes, and I was just so excited, like, to share that moment, like, with all my family and friends being there, and just to be able to, like, check that off the bucket list and finally get to say that I'm a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yeah, man, it feels good getting introduced as a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I've been dreaming of that moment for a while now, and like I said in that post interview, I was able to experience the games through a master's athlete I was coaching by the name of Liz Cole, and my friend made it in 2019. His name was Ryan Souter, and I was able to help him out. And he was in the male individual side, and being able to experience like him throughout the weekend and just kind of getting that small glimpse of it was just like, man, I want to be here so bad. And like finally being able to get my own name called was so relieving, and it just like I still can't believe it to this day. Like, it's hard.
So you talked about helping other people get there and kind of playing that support role. How long has this really been a goal for you? And when I say that, not just that it's a goal, how long have you been training for this specific moment?
So I started CrossFit after I graduated high school. So that was in 2014.
Okay.
And I probably started taking it like more seriously probably in like 2016. And then 2017 was my first year of like regionals, and obviously the end goal is to go to the games. But I was nowhere close enough skill level wise to actually make that happen yet. So 2019, when I went to Brazil, I got the taste of that. I think I finished like fifth or sixth. I actually forget, but it was a taste of like, I'm supposed to be here. And this is what I've been working for this whole time. We went to Granite Games on a team, and we were the first team to not qualify. I was with Ethan Helbig, Meredith Root, and Alex Parker.
Yeah,
and
it's a good team.
It was an awesome team. We had never done any team events before that, and we just worked really well together. And that was another moment that I was like, we or I are supposed to be here, and like it's not a fluke. So going into 2020, I had a couple events lined up. I was going to go to the Atlas Games, and I felt very confident for that. I was hitting good strides in workouts, and I felt pretty confident going into that. And obviously that happened with COVID and everything. But we also had a team lined up with, I know, Ryan Souter for the Rogue Invitational, and I felt pretty confident in that. Me and Ryan could do a workout in two different rooms and still be the exact same. So we fit really well together and work well together. So we were pretty confident for that. But it was just missed opportunities with COVID. And so I was really excited to get back to that competition this year.
So I want to get back into the 2020 and kind of how that all went down. But something I heard you say 2, 3, 4 times kind of in that span was, I started to believe, I started to know, I started to feel that I was meant to be here. I think that's something, if you don't mind kind of going to this, I think it's really interesting. I think that's something that people, including myself, really struggle with, is this idea, and it's not just in fitness, I think it's in everything, right? Or it can be, imposter syndrome, right? This idea that I'm not good enough, that idea that I'm going to be found out, that I'm going to be exposed, that I am not good enough, that I don't belong here with these people. As an athlete, dealing with that and seeing, because we live in a social media world where everyone is posting their highlight reel, including me, including you. We don't post the 60-minute rows, where we're on a rower for 60 minutes and we're getting destroyed and, can't hold it right. No one's posting that. Yeah. I'm curious, how do you internally deal with that on a day-to-day basis, as I know you're training your ass off?
Yeah. That's a great question. I definitely do think a lot of people struggle with that, and I definitely did for a long time, especially with, like I said, my regionals experience were never good. And I'm like, well, I can do it. I'm here, but, like, I'm just here. Like, I'm not here to compete. I was just happy to make it. And then Brazil was, like, the first time that I had a couple good events in a row. I had some good placements, and I was kind of sitting in a spot where I could qualify. And I remember talking with Coach L, and he was like, you know what, like, screw it, let's qualify. Like, that wasn't, like, necessarily the goal of going here, but, like, we're going to go for it. And I went into, like, every event thinking, like, I can make this happen. Like, I'm not just a fraud or, like you said, an imposter. And even in the MAC, like, I hit my snatch and I won that event. And my friend was like, someone on Instagram said, like, I wonder where he's going to be at the end of the weekend. And it's like, well, I mean, I ended up in 5th, so I was pretty happy with that. But there's just people sometimes just feel like they don't necessarily belong if they're especially new and kind of on the outside looking in. Like, you have your games athletes who go plenty times in a row, and you're like, I haven't even been yet. Like, do I even belong? Am I that person? Like, and then you make it happen, and you feel like you just feel confident after a couple good events, and you can have that moment where you're like, I do belong, and then you feel instantly more confident and feel better, and you can actually almost like relax in the moment and try to take full advantage of, say, like the final 6th event. Like, I know what I can do, and I need to make it happen, so let's make it happen.
It's so funny you say You mentioned somebody on Instagram said something about let's see where he is at the end of the weekend. I always think about
Yeah.
that quote, the man in the arena. Let me tell you, for those keyboard warriors out there, this one's for you. Like, screw off, man. Just
Yeah,
fucking screw
right.
off. All right, like this dude's doing something, and you're over there eating Cheetos on your couch, watching the live stream, going, man, let's see where this guy is. Get off your ass, you know. Like, anyways, I'm gonna not get canceled, so I'm gonna rein it in. But anyways, that's my soapbox for today. I'm curious for you. What advice would you give someone that is dealing with that? Because I think a lot of people do, and I think and this is something that Ella and I talked about. I know you said that you listened to that podcast. I appreciate it. I'm just curious how would you help someone if you were coaching someone? How would you help someone navigate that?
It's just like dealing with other people's opinions, and like it truly just doesn't like it doesn't matter because they don't even like affect you really. Like if you let it affect you, it will. But for the most part, the people who say like those comments and stuff, like they don't know what you're going through.
Yeah.
My mom always jokes that before I got into CrossFit, we were watching the CrossFit Games, and it was Rich Froning doing the midline march at the games that year,
Oh, yeah,
and he
that
dropped the
workout.
bar. He dropped the bar like I don't know, with 10, 15 feet left, and I'm sitting there not in CrossFit at all, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why is he resting? He's almost done. Like, come
Right.
on, like you're almost there. And obviously, I eat those words constantly with how tired like everyone gets in these workouts. You just know what it feels like, and you're like, you can feel for them because they're exhausted. But for the most part, they don't know what you're going through or what you're feeling. So they're just like on the outside looking in, telling you to go faster, or being negative somehow, and you just can't let it bother you, and just go about your day with the best that you can do, and with the best intentions, and hopefully it'll work out.
So kind of getting back into our timeline, you mentioned that you had some things lined up for the year 2020. I believe I heard you say filthy 150. Is that did I hear you say that, or am I making
Yeah,
that
so
up?
I qualified for the filthy 150, but I actually didn't go. That was
Okay.
just one of the things that I thought about, but decided against it. It wasn't right timing, so I actually didn't end up going that one.
Okay, didn't end up going to that one.
Yeah.
Okay, for you, what was planned for the year 2020? Did you have anything planned?
But yeah, I had the Atlas Games, which would have been individual, and then
The Rogue Invitational.
the Rogue Invitational on a team with Ryan Souter and some other ones.
So I've asked multiple athletes this, and I'll ask you: is what was that like as you just started to see things close rapidly? And what was that like, and how did you handle it? I mean, obviously physically, but then mentally and emotionally, as really things were up in the air and the information was abundant, but no
right.
real direction.
Right. It was definitely crazy. I mean, like as soon as all of the huge sports started shutting down, like that day we were in Montreal trying to figure out what we were going to do, not sure if the event was going to happen, and you get on Instagram and it's like the NBA shuts down, the NHL shuts down, like all these huge corporations that most people would say dwarf CrossFit. I'm like, well, this is like not a good sign at all. And so obviously they ended up canceling that event, and it was just such an unknown world that we were in. Like there was so much information going around, whether it was true or false or what was happening. And I mean, at that point, the CrossFit was the least of our worries. Like we're trying to figure out how to just get back into normal life again. So I definitely took some time just to like relax and stuff because the gym shut down. Fortunately, I had some like weights and a rig and like an assault bike at my parents' garage. So every once in a while I'd go over there and work out and just kind of like, I don't know, try to have a sense of normalcy and try to get just a little workout in. But I was definitely not focusing on like any event or any certain training. It was just, you just had no idea what was going to happen. So it was really hard and it was frustrating. Definitely fitness dipped down, but once everything started loosening up and gyms started opening up, it was just great to get back into a gym and work out a little bit.
So when you did go back to a gym, was the conversation internally or maybe even externally with your family, your coach, was it, hey, I'm going to qualify. Because then, leadership change at CrossFit. Now we have semifinals instead of sanctionals. Was that the conversation, or was it just like, hey, I'm just going to train and we'll figure out where this thing goes?
Yeah, it was definitely just going to train and see how this thing goes. I actually ended up getting a full-time job in July of last year, so I was extremely fortunate to be
That's
able
awesome.
to get a
Yeah,
job
100%.
when everything was going down. So many people were losing their jobs and kind of in rough spots, and I was fortunate enough to get a really good job in July. So a lot of my time was put into that. And so I was just honestly doing class workouts at CrossFit Conjugate, trying to go on with the flow and just getting back into it, and not even thinking about when a competition was going to come back because of the obviously COVID, but also the uncertainty with CrossFit, like you said, the change in leadership, all of those things we just didn't even know. So it wasn't even a thought yet.
Interesting. So when did it become a thought? Like, obviously you did the open, you did the quarterfinals. Did it become real then? You're like, oh, I did all right,
Yeah. So this is a true story.
I love it.
I reached out to Ryan Souter, and my other friend, his name's Logan Martin. We were just talking about like the open and like what was going to transpire after that. And I was like, honestly, like I have no idea where I'm at. I'd be lucky to even make the quarterfinals. Like I have no idea if I'm even in the top 10%. And Ryan is like, shut up. Like you could not work out for 2 years and still make the top 10%. And I was like, dude, I don't know, man. Like I just don't feel that awesome. And I don't know how it's going to go. So it was a moment where I had no idea how the season was going to play out. And honestly, it's the first time I thought about that since it even happened. But it's crazy that we actually had that conversation. But that's where I was at. Like I had no idea. I was just kind of doing it for fun and taking it week by week. I did the workouts just with the class at the gym and didn't put too much stress on it, and just let it fall where it was going to.
So then you obviously are in the top 10%. I agree with Ryan. You could probably not work out for a year and still make it.
Yeah.
All right. You do the quarterfinals. And then I guess at that point, did it become real to you? Or let me just ask this, when did it become real?
It didn't really become real until I got placed at the max. So I was looking at where I was on the leaderboard in the quarterfinals, and I was like, man, like every workout that like we put in, like you had 2 workout scores to put in at each day. It was like 2 p.m. Eastern time or something, and I put the 2 workouts in on Friday, and I was like, it's not great, but like it's not horrible. No idea how this is going to play out. And then Saturday comes around, and I'm like, all right, those are pretty good events, and then Sunday comes on, and I'm like sitting in a qualifying spot, and I was like, what is happening? Like, how is this happening? And I was just happy to be in the top 120 going into the semis, and I got the email that was like, hey, like you qualified for the MidAtlantic CrossFit Challenge, and I was like, wow, like all this uncertainty going into this year, like I'm so pumped just to even have a spot. And then looking at the field and stuff, like we talked about a little bit ago, it was so many good people, and I was like, man, like this is a stacked field, and it'll just be fun to go and get into live competition again.
So even then, even after they said, okay, hey, you've qualified, you're going to be here, you're going to the MAC, even then it was like, I'm just going to do a live competition.
Yeah. No, and someone asked me going into it, and I was like, what's your goal? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, what my fitness level is in comparison to all these awesome people. Like, there was so many there. I didn't know where I would sit. I could have went into it, and if I just would have done the best I could in every single event, like, I would have been happy with my placement. Obviously, after the first day when I'm sitting in tied for second place, I'm like, whew, this is looking pretty good. Like, I'm really excited about it. Didn't want to say anything yet. Like, I knew where I was at, but you don't want to get like too hyper with every event like coming. You don't want to get too excited too early. So it wasn't really until after that first day that I was like thinking like maybe this is it. Maybe I could do this.
So you mentioned that you got a job in July, and so assuming that job takes up, 8 to 5, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So assuming that, what did training look like? Because you would have to wonder if this isn't your full-time job, if CrossFit isn't your full-time job, right?
Yeah.
There's only a very lucky few that it is.
Yeah, right.
What did training look like? Because I think people would really want to know that, as like, man, how did you qualify?
Yeah.
And you clearly weren't training 8 hours, 6 hours a day.
Yeah, definitely. And it was discouraging, like looking at like, obviously Matt Fraser's retired now, but looking at him and he's putting 24 hours a day into CrossFit, you're looking at it like, how am I supposed to catch someone like that, or even get up to that level to have the chance when their whole lives are for CrossFit, and I have to spend 8-9 hours a day working and like doing things that don't affect my fitness or even are counterproductive to my fitness. So going up into semifinals, I would do like a quick morning session. Like I have a rower, a skier, and an assault bike in our extra bedroom here. And I would do like an endurance piece in the morning before work, and then I would leave by 8:15, work till 4:30 to 5 or 4:35ish, and then after that I'd go straight to the gym and train for sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just depending on what we had going on that day. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of time for extra training. I was just trying to make the most of what I could do. A lot of it was spent on like skill refinement. So I do think I move pretty well, and I just have some outlying skills that can be good, like snatching. So I did a lot of work there just to make sure that could stay. I don't want to lose that being such a strength for me. But we did a lot of endurance stuff. Like it may not seem like with that long event being going so poorly, but it was just I didn't spend a whole lot of time running. So I think a good strong point for me is like anything between those like that 8 to 12 to 15 minute time range. Like I'm like that's where I would really honestly do well, or even shorter than that. But anything past that, in terms of like running and all that kind of stuff, is where I struggle. But it was just focusing on pure CrossFit, like just I was doing the class workouts with some extra accessories. And our class WODs at Conjugate are pretty tough, and like my coach, Alex Bookout, makes some pretty gnarly workouts. So I would say it's more advanced than the normal CrossFit class, but still, like you're in a class setting, like you're doing what you can do, sharing equipment, like a normal CrossFit gym. So I was just trying to make the most of the time I did have.
So I want to sum that up for people that are listening. You made it. That's a big statement. You made it to the CrossFit Games on average 2 to 3 hours of training a day.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. That's impressive. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's freaking impressive. Seriously, I don't just say that, man. It's freaking impressive, and I hope people.
Thank you.
And I know people listening are going to find it if they do any type of, which most people listening to this do, any type of CrossFit competition, whether they be local or at that level. It's impressive.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, Elle texted me like after I qualified. He actually called me and was like congratulating me and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, I just want you to know that I was just on the Brute Strength podcast, and I told everyone that you have to train 8 hours a day, and you cannot make it to the CrossFit Games if you work a full-time job." And he was sending like a bunch of laughy faces, like laughing emojis and stuff with it. And he's like, "I'm gonna have to eat those words." And I was like, "You were right. Like, I did not do 8 hours a day of training. Let me tell you that."
I'm gonna clip this part, and I'm gonna clip him saying what you just quoted, and then I'm gonna clip our little section here, and we're gonna get that posted up. I'll send it to you so you can post on your page too. Just and it really goes with the swag that I kind of saw from you all weekend, which was and I saw on your shirt, it was Conjugate against the world.
Yeah.
Like that to me was just like, and it just talking to you now and getting to know you a little bit. It's kind of that swag. It's like, you know what? You said I can't do it. Cool. Watch me.
Yeah. It was definitely motivating. Like I had already qualified and stuff, but listening to him say that, I was like, man, like it is discouraging to hear that. And it does like kind of put like a down mood on it. Like you're like, man, like I can't train that much. So like, I don't want people to think that they shouldn't try, because like if you want it bad enough and like you put in the work that you can and make the most of the time that you do have, like it is possible, especially with like if you're someone that has extremely high skills, like the point system like rewards you for having high skills. So like
Yeah.
for me, an instance, I had 6 events, and 4 of them were top 6, and then I had a 12 and a 26. So I was definitely rewarded for my top finishes, and that put me in a good spot
Yeah.
to make a mistake like the 4th event. Like if that event was anything else, and let's say I'm middle of the pack, like I shouldn't even have a problem going into the final event. But I did so well in those other events that I had some wiggle room, and I could afford that. As weird as that sounds, I could afford to have a bad event.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, being able to pull out a first place finish, as people say, it pays to be a winner. Winning
Yeah,
pays.
right?
It just does, and you were a winner.
Right.
There's no question about it. So, as we look forward, we obviously have the CrossFit Games in, I think, 6 weeks?
Yeah, about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. So, you're obviously not quitting your very full-time job. I don't think you are, at least.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Well, fill us in. What does training look like? You said you were going to obviously be doing some running. What does training look like now? And are you making any adjustments? Are you going to be training more, or is you going to stick with the 3-hour-a-day thing?
I'm definitely going to try to train more. So this past week was my first week back to training, and me and my wife made a deal that we would go to 6 a.m. class at CrossFit Conjugate every single morning before work. So we've been getting up at 5, at the gym by 6, doing class workouts or just like a different aerobic piece, just like aerobic focused in the morning. And then, I'm back home by 7:30, get ready for work 8:15 to 4:30 or 5. And then I'll go to the gym, train for 2 hours. Maybe I'll definitely ramp it up as the games get closer.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in a couple of weeks, I'll ramp it up to maybe, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 hours afterward. That's all the time I can. At that point, it's 7:30 at night.
You just don't have enough time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a thing about not having enough hours in the day, because unfortunately, I'm not someone who can survive on 5 hours of sleep. So I do try to get 8 hours of sleep a night. So we've been going to bed at 9:30, waking up at 5. So at that point, you're running out of hours in the day. So trying to just, again, make the most of the time I do have. So a lot of aerobic work. I'm going to be working with Shane Sweat at the Sweatshop at CrossFit Conjugate. They are a powerlifting gym, and they have many world records with Laura Phelps. So I'll be working that, trying to get as strong as possible in terms of powerlifting movements that aren't strengths for me. And on top of that, just running and just try to, again, like I said, I keep saying it, but making the most of the time I do have.
So I know this might sound like deja vu because someone asked you going into the semifinal, what was your goal? And now you are knocking on the door of the CrossFit Games, a goal that's been top of mind for, it sounds like, a really, really long time. Are you going in with that same mentality of, I just kind of want to see where I am, or is it something more? I guess the goal has always been to get to the CrossFit Games, but I guess what I'm trying to tease out is, was it more of a process goal of, I need to become the person I need to be? Or was it more of an outcome goal of, hey, if I just get to the CrossFit Games, I could get, 40th, and I'm happy? I'm just curious, where are you on that scale?
So I think I'm a little bit in the middle. So obviously I'm extremely happy to be there, being a goal of mine for a very long time. I'm happy to be there, but also my main goal is to eventually be able to provide for me and my wife through CrossFit. It's something I love to do, and I think it would be amazing to make money off of something that I love to do. Like they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
And so the goal is obviously to come out of this in a spot where maybe not this year, but eventually be able to do CrossFit full time and be able to provide for me and my wife and eventually our family. And I would love for her to be able to not work, and whether that's winning the CrossFit Games at some point, or just being in a spot where, I don't know, even social media can provide an income for me through outside of the competitions and stuff. The goal is, that's my main goal, is to do something I love as a career and just live every day like with my wife and be able to have awesome time and not have to work full time and be away from each other for so long.
Well, I mean, I know that I was trying to find podcasts, and I scoured YouTube in in an effort to prepare for this conversation, and there wasn't a lot out there, and then I've stumbled across a podcast that you'd been on, and the first thing that I noticed about you was you're not this like super bland, like, yeah, I work really hard, I do CrossFit, I lift weights, I'm not gonna tell you my secrets, like I can't show you my vulnerable. Like you're an energetic dude, and you have a lot to say, and not just hot air. Like you have substantive things to say, and really emotionally intelligent, and like able to communicate that. So, man, I mean, of course, it don't matter from a podcast host, I guess. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think if you want to do that, I mean, dude, it's there, because to me, you have such this aura about you to be able to, communicate with people. And I hope and pray that this podcast will show people, hey, this dude is likable, and not only is he a great athlete, but he's super likable and relatable. And I think for people listening and people watching who watch on YouTube, will certainly get that out of this, or at least I hope they do, because I mean, I can tell that just from having this conversation.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I actually joked with my wife that I always say I'm bad at talking, just kind of get in little thought bubbles that end up nowhere. So I really appreciate you saying that. I try to be I'm a very positive person, so I try to be as positive as possible, as much as I can. Try to look at the world in just like a happier viewpoint. Try to not be negative. Definitely a glass half full type of person. But yeah, so I really appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up here, I just have a few like questions on like the future of the sport and kind of what you see as an athlete, and maybe even what you want to see. So obviously this year, CrossFit went to, as everyone knows, a semifinal system. It went away from the sanctional system, kind of an ode to regionals back in the day. Just curious, as an athlete, everyone has their own perspective, but what's your thoughts? I mean, do you like the sanctional season, or do you like this kind of setup with more regional-esque qualifiers?
Yeah, I definitely like this format the most. Like, I loved regionals. I thought regionals was super cool because there's a huge event for like a whole region of people, and so being able to go to two of them, I was fortunate to have that, and it was a great experience. The sanctionals were awesome, but in terms of like an athlete like myself who doesn't have a ton of sponsors or don't have like someone paying for all my travel and like all these competitions, like it was impossible for myself to go to like a ton of events. Like there's some people who were hitting event after event after event, and that gives them more chances to qualify. And someone who works and like doesn't have someone doing that, like it would make it impossible for me to like have that many opportunities. So going into this year's process, like I loved the quarterfinals, like top 10% of people get to be involved in the next step. And so like those little goals are just like great for people to want to get better. So like the average person who goes to the gym, it's like, okay, like my goal is to be top 10% of the world or my continent to move into quarterfinals. And that was great. Like we had a ton of people at my gym, and I know a ton of people at different gyms be able to be involved in workouts like hard events for people like Matt Frazier and stuff like that. Like they're doing the same workouts, and that was the appeal of the Opens for so long, was being able to do the same workouts as these awesome athletes. So, and then moving into the semifinals, I mean, it's regional-esque. Like there's 4 events. You get one opportunity to make it happen. And it takes away the people who can go to multiple events, and it's like, hey, you got it or you don't. Like show up or don't. Yeah. And then it moves into the games, which I think is great.
Kind of an off-the-wall question, but if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would that one meal be?
Oh, that's an easy question. Me and my wife would answer the same, have the same answer, and it's breakfast food. So we had breakfast food at our wedding. So we had.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we had pancakes, waffles, sausage, bacon, biscuits and gravy. Like, we had everything. So I would eat breakfast every single meal for the rest of my life. Like, any sort of breakfast. We also had donuts, so we went off the wall, but we loved it. That's our favorite meal, and that's what our go-to all the time.
I love hearing when people have really odd things at their wedding. So my wife and I had, so her favorite food is Mexican food and mine is sushi. So that's what we had. We had a fajita bar and sushi. So it was
Wow,
the weird.
that's awesome.
It was so weird. And people were like, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, we can. Absolutely, we
Right.
can. It's our
That's
wedding.
how I feel. Yeah.
Or you can just not come. It doesn't bother me. It's not about
Right.
you. But that is amazing.
We're giving you a free meal. Like,
That's so cool. You had breakfast food. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So it was
right.
like eggs and bacon and
yep, all the above, all the above. And we had a family friend chef who did it all and catered everything.
what?
So
That's even
it was
cooler.
it was a whole buffet of all these breakfast foods, and it was amazing. It was great.
Wow. How long have you been married?
We got married in October, so it's only been like 8 or 9 months.
Cool. So you're newlyweds like me. So I asked Dallin this, and I'll ask you this. What's the biggest thing you've learned in the 8-ish months you've been married?
I would say it's just like, honestly, we just love being together and everything. So I just spend as much quality time as possible together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's my best friend, and we get to hang
Yeah.
out every day as best friends and husband and wife. So it's just been a great time all around, and I love being with her, and I love our lives together, and can't wait for many, many, many more years together.
So no weird things like she puts the toilet paper on backwards or like my wife. So nothing like that.
No, so actually we are high school sweethearts. So we've been together
That's
for
amazing.
this will be our 9th year together. So we've been together for a long time, and we got through all those weird things a long time ago.
I bet. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, look, I sincerely appreciate your time. I want to give people the opportunity to find you on social if they want to connect or they want to follow your journey. And I know that you are fundraising via the shirts that you have on your page. Can you just tell people like where they can go to find those, how they can contribute if they want to?
Yeah. So it's on my Instagram, which is zwatts42. So we had some awesome shirts made. It actually has like a Zach Watts logo on it, which is super cool. It was made by my friend Blake Logsden,
Mm-hmm.
and he killed it. Like, it's awesome. So my last name is Watts, and my car license plate is Lightbulb, thanks to my Spanish teacher in high school. That was his Spanish name for me, was Lightbulb. So it's just been this ongoing thing that I've been wanting to do to make this logo, and he made it happen. So it's a super awesome shirt, and it literally couldn't have been any better. So it has an awesome like light bulb logo on the back with like the wire of the light bulb is a lifter, and there's a super cool like Z Watts on the top, and then on the front it's a CrossFit conjugate with CrossFit Games 2021 on it. So it's an awesome shirt. We have it in black and white. And they are $30 a piece, and we can ship them to you. So we asked just like for an extra like $5 to ship it, but we can ship them.
Cool. I'll put all of that information in the show notes for those of you that are interested. And you said it's at Z as in zebra Watts, WATTS 42.
Correct. Yep.
All right. Fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to add, or maybe there's something I didn't ask that you would want me to ask before we get off?
No, I don't think so. If you're ever in Greater Cincinnati area, hit me up, and we can have an awesome workout at CrossFit Conjugate. I can maybe introduce you to the sweatshop.
Yeah, that sounds gnarly. That sounds
lots of bands and chains, and make you strong.
Exactly. Well, man, thank you so much for hopping on here, and I know that people are going to be better and wiser for listening to this conversation. I know I learned a lot, so sincerely, thank you for your time, man. Again, congratulations. It's been fun watching you, and I hope you freaking crush it at the games, man. I know I'll be cheering for you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thank all of you for checking out the podcast today. We appreciate you keeping the light bulbs on. And if you would, hit that little subscribe button. It'll help us out a lot. And until next time, we'll see you later.